is all she's making. Not really. She now has flexibility to run a business that can pay her a little bit more money than you're even paying her. So really, my question is always ask questions. I would be curious and I will ask you, but have your answers ready for me. So if I ask you, oh Benita, so why are you trying to take this job even if it pays you less? Flexibility is a valid reason. You know that you're out of market price is a valid reason. And then if there are other reasons, to be honest, if you're a builder, so I know a guy who is his father is very rich. In fact, he doesn't need the company's money, to be honest. And the guy clearly told us, see, if I was working for the money, I won't be working here. But I really am passionate about healthcare and I really like what you guys are building. And so for me, that's the reason why I'm here. So that's a valid reason. So you must be able to tell your story, know your why, and communicate it well. People will be curious for sure. But if you have the right answers for them, I'm sure they'll be okay with it.
All right, thank you. That was very satisfactory.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that will be all the questions we have for goodness today. So goodness, thank you for your time and for making attempt to like talk to us about negotiation of salaries. Yes, really learned a lot. I myself personally. So um, I think yeah. So before we proceed, please if you have any questions from the first session, you can just quickly type that in the chat or you can raise your hand. So if you have any questions from the session we had on ethics and composure for Ore, yeah, you can just raise your hand or type in the chat. Okay, so I think we have okay. Hello, Ore, are you still with us, please?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. I think we have one question from Chijoki again.
Is it in the comment section?
No, I think someone read their hand up just now. Can't find it again. Okay. Oh, Benita did not raise his hand. Sorry. Can
Okay, hi,
ask your
Benina.
question, Benita?
Hi. Okay. So I don't know if this is like a valid question regarding what you took, right? But I still want to ask it. So if you can answer it. So is it like what's your advice, right? For I'll start by saying that we are not perfect, right? We are human, and so that means that we can make mistakes, right? And the most important thing is that we learn from our mistakes and just try to do better and make better decisions, right? So what would your advice be to somebody that um got involved in something, you know and probably breached um a certain policy at where he was working, and got you know terminated for some reason, right? And is looking for how to move forward from it, right? So, and knowing that, okay, yes, that background checks are done, right? Right. So, what approach would you advise the person, to take, just to like stand, get a chance, second chances, whatever, like, yeah. So that's what I have to ask.
Okay. Yeah, so that is a very deep question. And to the best of my ability, I would answer. First of all, it is important for you to be accountable. Own up to the mistake. If you are genuinely remorseful, you would have steps that you would have taken to do better. It depends on the situation, it depends on the scenario. But basically, if it's a mistake that you made that cost you your career, what circumstance led to the mistake? How did you react? What are you going to change so that um if the circumstance presents itself again, you would react differently. You would react in a better way. Have tangible proof. It might be taking some classes if it's a technical mistake. It might be, it depends. But being accountable for your mistake is the first step. The second step really is transparency. It's always better to be transparent with the next organization about circumstances why you left. And in your transparency, also show growth, show improvement, show changes that will help them be more confident in your candidacy. It may not always work, to be fair, because a lot of companies would want to err on the side of caution, but there will be companies that will take a chance, especially depending on the kind of mistake. If it's like a crime, for example, I don't know how to answer that. But if it's people make mistakes, if it's a genuine mistake, no matter how big or small, be transparent, what led to the circumstance, how you reacted, and what you are doing differently since then, so that they understand that, okay, it was a mistake. No one is perfect. We can get past this if we hire this person. And another reason why transparency is very important is because they're going to do background checks. They're going to do reference checks. They will find out, they will reach out to the HR of your previous company. I will tell them what happened. And they'll be like, this person was trying to doing me. And that's like an outright no. But when you're forthcoming, when you're transparent, when you have shown improvement, then it's better. You are getting ahead of it. And your chances of getting the next job is higher than if you were not transparent at all. Another thing is, don't pretend to have learned your lesson, because it may not always come true, but in your responses, in your behaviors, etc. And there's also a probationary period, even when you're employed. So actually learn from the mistakes and try to make steps to be better, because that is the only way you are going to get away from that. If you don't learn, if you don't change, it's always going to be a learn from them and do better. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I mean it does really. Thanks.
Thank you.
I actually just also wanted to add briefly before my driver gets here. Do it for yourself first before you do it for anybody else, right? Like she said, sometimes they might still not take you back or might not forgive you, but the greatest thing you can do is to make that change for yourself. You know you've changed, right? With time, everybody else will see it. Okay, that's what I just wanted to add to all that she said, which is great. Do it for yourself first, because when you do it for somebody else, then if they don't see it, you become discouraged. Da, 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 da. So just do it for yourself first. Make sure that you change. Make sure you learn your lesson for yourself before you then, that change can translate into other people.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Okay, I have
And
a
also
question.
the chat.
Yeah. How do you perceive
Hmm.
Codem as a recruiter? Do you respond to it? Have you hired anyone via Codem? So I try my possible best to first of all accept everyone that sends me a request on LinkedIn, but it's very hard. So I do like a routine check to see people that have sent me messages in the past, like maybe 1 week or a few days, as often as I check. And then I miss some. But if I do accept your request and you send a code DM saying you want to work for Flutterwave, I would actually respond, especially because it makes my job easier if you are a good fit for the position. So if you send me your CV, or if you send me a request detailing your skill set, and the skill set actively matches something I'm looking out for, I would quickly ask you to send your CV. And if it's a good match, I'll take the conversation from there. In some cases, if I have like an overview of all the positions, regardless of whether I'm the recruitment partner or not, I will refer you. I will share your profile with the recruitment partner. Say, okay, I'm not hiring for this position right now. This person is. I will share your profile with this person. In other cases, we might not have an opening. We might not, whether from me or from another recruitment partner. And I'll refer you back to a Flutterwave page and let you know that if you see an active position that you think would be a good fit for, reach out to me later. I would actually respond. And it had happened before. Someone reached out to me for a project management position. There was no opening, so I let her know, told her to just keep checking. And if there is, she can reach out to me. We eventually got an opening. She applied and she went through the interviews. So cold DMs are fine. It shows, especially the way you present it, it shows like you are willing to go the extra mile beyond just applying. Like 1,000 people can apply, but your application would actually stand out for me. It will call me to your application. I would see it on LinkedIn and I will then refer to your CV or your application. I'm like, okay, this person applied. If they're a good fit, I have no problem with it. And yes, I have hired via Codem. In fact, it was in one case, it wasn't even my position. I referred them to the recruitment lead, and when it was time to hire them, they were like, "Oh, it's already that shared this profile." And I was like, "No, it's not me. Like, it's you." I'd forgotten the person, but and then they not referred me back like, "Oh, the person is from LinkedIn," and I realized that we had a whole conversation. I told them to share their CV. I sent it to the person, and I just moved on. So, absolutely, just be respectful. Do not hound them because sending, for example, two different scenarios that you should avoid as much as possible when you send a request to someone, and they accept the request, and you send them a message, "Hi" or "Hello, good evening." They are receiving 1 million of those kind of messages. They're probably not going to answer you, but actually send exactly what you want from the get-go so they can see and quickly determine if it's a conversation that they need to consider, especially because these days, more and more people, they're using LinkedIn as a dating app, Apple, whether you like it or not. So I have to know your intention, know whether it's worth my time. So don't just send hi or hello. Another thing people do is when you have responded with like your feedback, keep sending messages and messages and messages. I just wanted to find out if there's still openings. It's something that you can easily check. In that case, it might be like harassment. So in those scenarios, those are not the best scenarios, but send your message, be very direct, communicate your intent, be respectful, and no reservations, none whatsoever. Then I have another question. How do I best represent career gap on my resume? Well, it depends on why you have the career gap. If you resign by yourself or if you're laid off. But during a career gap, you should do things to improve yourself. Either you're taking one certification or you're learning a skill, whatever you're doing, it should be something that can contribute towards your career. So you can just list it out. Actually, write career gap. I went for my MBA, 1 year MBA, and after then I started job hunting, or in this period I was looking for new opportunities in XYZ industries, and then these are the things that I've been able to do during my career gap. So it's not a dead sentence. It's not like if there's a career gap, no one's ever going to hire you. It's just want to find out why that gap is there and get a sense of what you were doing during that gap to understand the kind of person you are and what kind of value you would bring to the organization. Especially because sometimes, especially in this present climate, career gaps are and not entirely your fault. They have no bearing on you as an individual. So just represent it properly, list it out. You might not even it's better to put it on your CV, but even if you don't put it on your CV, you can just really talk towards it like, oh, I'm sure you would have noticed that within XYZ period, I did not I wasn't in a job. These are the things I was doing. This is the reason why XYZ. I need to be fine.
Thank you very much for that. All right. Fatima, did that answer your question? Fine. Okay. Yeah, that's good. So I have one question for you as well. So I'm going to paint a scenario. Yeah. So let's say you worked at a startup for a bit. Yes. Then you resigned toward the end of the month before you were paid. Then after like 2 weeks, you were still not paid. Then an issue came up where you needed to fix something, and you just didn't do anything. Like you just had everything. So while doing background checks, like you reach out to the previous employer and you get bad feedback. So like in that kind of scenario, like am I meant to have told you about that before, like during the interview, or like
Sorry, I
how do
don't
you
I
want to
don't get
handle
your
that?
question. The last thing I understood was you left a job 2 weeks before you were supposed to be paid,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Let's say like a few days before you were to be paid. Then
Mm-hmm.
after like 2 weeks, you were still not paid. You get.
Mm-hmm.
Then at that point, the company had an issue that only you could fix because like you had a knowledge of how to fix that issue, but you declined fixing it and like you just didn't bother with fixing it or getting paid what you were owed. So let's say later when you apply for a job, during the interview, should you mention this or like how do you affect the background checks that will be run on you later on?
So you had resigned, right? You were
Yes,
no longer an employee of the
yes,
organization,
yes,
and they reached out to you to fix something, and you did not
yes,
answer because
yes,
because you were upset that they hadn't paid you.
yes,
Really affects your next job.
yes, yes,
This is a personal opinion, and I think it's more of a personal thing than a right or wrong thing. I don't think any company is going to hold it against you for not. You had resigned. You were no longer an employee of the company. So maybe in that scenario, what should have done was like, oh yes, for this time period that you are going to do the work, it would be contract, right? So they would have to pay you for that time period. Or you could have responded saying that is fine, but there's still a balance that needs to be paid. That in addition, they would have to clear that balance before you're because you have no did you hand over properly? If you did hand over properly, then you have no what's the word I'm looking for? Obligation to the organization anymore. You resigned, they accepted your resignation, you did all your checks correctly, you submitted every document you were supposed to submit, you had exited from the organization, you had exited properly, you handed over, you told everyone everything. It just so happened that maybe what you explained, they could not understand it. You have no obligation to your organization. It's if you did not hand over properly that it will be a challenge and it will speak to the kind of individual you are. And the future company might now question whether or not they want to hire an individual that would be, for lack of better word, sloppy, or no, not sloppy, or maybe nonchalant, for example. Because guarantee is that whether or not you were paid, the next if you want to leave, that's how you do your handover. So I would say that a proper handover is very important. It's very telling about the kind of person you are. So when you're leaving an organization, do a very proper handover. So that no one will say, that person, isn't that when they left, they scattered everywhere. Those kind of things. So if you've done your handover, it's perfect, and you have checked out of the organization, you've done everything you're supposed to do. Then you are under no obligation to go back to the organization unless you want to. And in that case, if you want to request for your money, it is well within your right.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much for that. Then one last question. So you mentioned how to like answer the "tell me about yourself" question. Like, can you give like an example? Like, can you use yourself as a like, as an example? Like, how would you answer "tell me about yourself"? Is there a certain like just a guide to it, or like a certain like what must be inside that answer? Because it's
Okay,
often I don't like it's often like a 2 minute answer.
yeah. So different people have their different like strategies for answering that question. And the one that I have learned and I would typically propose is talk about your past, your present, your future. You know, what you have done in the past, what you accomplished, what you're doing presently, what you have accomplished, and what you hope to do if you get the job in the organization. So that's a very good template that I can recommend. And then you can then talk about other things that may ease you into the interview. You can talk about maybe your hobbies if that's your preference. So for me, if I were to answer that question, I would start with my, if it's entry level, I'd have started with earlier in my career rather, I'd have started with where I went to school, studied microbiology in Covenant University. I know that it's a big transition from microbiology to human resources, but I just thought that I could solve human resource problems in organizations, which is why I made that transition. And then you talk about first job. I joined EY in XYZ. I've been there for XYZ number of years. There I did workforce consulting for various companies in different sectors. Before I left EY, I was leading client engagement and I had an engagement success rate of about 80% and a feedback rate of 100%. I'm in Flutterwave now and I handle the full cycle recruitment process of all positions in the non-technical team. I've accomplished a few things in Flutterwave. A few of them are, successfully transitioned the team to introduce data to the team and automated recruitment process to make sure that it was a data-driven approach, etc. If I'm hired in XYZ company, I'm most excited about the prospect of solving challenges or problems in XYZ scenarios. And I want to utilize my skills to make sure that, I'm the best fit, things like that. But good template, talk about your past, your accomplishments, your present, your accomplishments, and what you hope to accomplish in the organization you're applying for.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer, Ari. I also like that you give like add numbers like into your experience, like you give numbers on like data that one thing that you did, like maybe your
Yeah.
accomplishments. Yeah, so that was pretty good. Thank you very much. So I think that's all the questions we have for Ore today. So yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, no
So,
worries.
yeah. So for the next session, we'll have Emmanuel, also from. Okay, I think the short last minute question. No, I don't think we can create numbers from thin air. Should we be done what we've done? Yeah. So okay. So
So,
for the
like
next
I
session,
said, sorry, do not manufacture numbers. If it is quantifiable, um, quantify it. Don't manufacture numbers. A lot of things you'll be able to quantify. I've done that before. I put in my CV that I did something and I put hard numbers. And they were like, yes, so tell me how you did this. How did you accomplish this? And by the time I finished, they were like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. If you did these things, then you get this result. So if you manufacture numbers, they're just looking at you like, it's probably not even possible. You're just saying like, and you answer, and they'll be like, yeah, that doesn't show me how you will be able to accomplish those numbers. So it's very important to not embellish in your CV and your introduction as well. Don't embellish.
okay, noted. Noted. Thank you very much again. So for the next session, that'll be the third one. We'll have Mr. Emmanuel also from Flutterwave. So we'll be taking a demo session, like a demo interview session with us. Yeah. Manuel, can you please speak up? And if you're trying to talk, I think your mic is off. Yeah.
Sure. Hello everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Please, can you hear me loud and clear?
I can hear you. Your audio is a bit
Okay.
slow. Yeah.
Okay. How about now? Is it better?
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay, awesome. So, thanks for having me, and well done to every single person that worked towards putting this together. And it's been a wonderful session so far. Great insights shared by Ore and goodness. So I think it's time to practicalize what you've learned so far. And we have about, I think, 3 people that will be having, because of time, we might have to shorten the initial planned time. So we're going to be having a live demo interview sessions with 3 people on this call. So let's start with. By the way, I think I can just go ahead, right?
Yes, you can. But maybe you can give us a brief intro of yourself before you proceed.
Introduction about myself. Um, yeah, so I'm a recruiter at Autowave. I'm a technical recruiter at Autowave. So what that essentially means is I primarily assist with the recruitment of engineers, software engineers, for engineering teams. Yeah, I've been at Autowave for a little over 3 years. And it's been wonderful so far, working with amazing people, building amazing products. Before Florida, I was at an edtech company where I did a couple of functions across the HR value chain. So yeah, before then I was doing some things in consulting as well. So let me not bore you with all of those stories. So that's just a brief introduction about me. Thank you so much. So I think we can start with give me a second. We can start with Abdul Basit Akingbade. Let me switch on my video, by the way. Is Abdul Basit Akingbade on the call?
Yeah,
Okay. There's some background noise where you are doing. Anything that can be done about that?
Fatima, can you please off your mic? I think that's where the noise is coming.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So Abdul Basit, how are you doing today?
yeah, good. How are you?
Yeah, very well. I assume you are not camera ready.
Yeah. Should I turn my camera?
Yes, if you can,
Might
it would be nice if you can. But if you can't, it's fine. Okay, awesome. That's fantastic. So how are you doing today?
yeah, I'm doing good. Doing
Awesome, great. So I've introduced myself earlier in this call, so I won't do that again. So we'll jump straight into your introduction. After your introduction, we'll go into the questions that I have for you. So can you please introduce yourself?
good. Okay. So my name is Abdul Basit, and I'm a software developer with experience in developing mobile applications and also backend. So basically, I started my coding journey in 2021 or 2022, where I joined a software development training program called ELS. So from there, I was able to learn most of the computer science concepts. And yeah, so,
Okay. Although I wasn't able to hear you very clearly, but I don't think there's anything that can be done about. Yeah. So Fatima also mentioned that she can barely hear you. If there's anything we can do about it, please would appreciate. Probably get a more. Is it possible for you to get a more quiet place?
Okay.
You can switch off your video if you have to do that. It's fine. Yeah. Let's just give him about some 10 seconds to do that. Uh, please it would be nice if you really, really pay attention to this because we are going to review. I would really like if you guys would actually even comment after the session because the plan is I'll be the one to comment after the session, but I would like to at least get your thoughts, at least one or two people after each session. So please pay attention so that I can share your thoughts, things that you did well, and things that you feel you could have done better. So, this is going to be very technical. So I'm going to do a mix of both. So typically, the average organization, the average standard organization, has a technical interview session first before they do a culture fit interview session. They don't mix those sessions, but some organizations mix. They just go in aspects of the interview as once, both technical and culture fit. They just do everything once. But because of time and because we don't have all day to split the sessions, I'll just do both. So it's going to be a mix of technical and culture, but more technical. So yeah, I think the background is
Yeah,
much better.
right now.
Yeah, awesome. Great, thank you so much. So
Yeah.
the first question I would like to ask you, Abdul Basit, is what are the primary responsibilities of the backend developer? Or let me take it more specific. I saw that you were working or you worked at HMG between September 2023 to December 2023. So, what were your day-to-day activities as a backend developer?
Yeah, so while I was working at HIV, so I was basically creating the back-end infrastructure for the front-end web app that our front-end team was working. So what I did, I created the back-end. So actually a back-end API. I created it Node.js, and so it was like a week project. It was a week project. Yeah, we to create the backend. Yeah, just backend like this.
The backend infrastructure.
Yeah, for for
Okay.
for an application.
Okay.
So
Okay. So that's on a generic level. Can you tell me what you do day to day, like week in, week out? When there's a sprint that's been done, what portion of tasks gets apportioned to you as a backend developer?
okay, so I was tasked on working on the authentication API, the authentication route of the API. I worked on authentication like authentication using JWT to authenticate the user, sign out, forgot password, then setting password. So I also work on so the app was basically was the full e-commerce application. So I worked on the product route, like the product requirement. So if you go
Okay.
okay, come back.
Okay.
So that was what I did.
Okay. That's fine. My next question to follow up with that is what are programming languages that you are proficient with?
Okay, so I mentioned earlier a mobile application developer, so I'm proficient in Flutter. Then I also do backend using Node.js and also Node.js. Next.js.
Node.js
Yeah, Node.js.
and which?
And I use the framework Next.js. Next.js.
Oh, okay, the framework. Okay, that's fine. So why did you choose that framework? Why do you prefer working with that framework?
Yeah, so using I first started using Express.js framework. So what I discovered was like while using Express.js, so like there was not really structure for developing backend API. So I usually could I love to when there's a structure. Okay, so we are going to use our authentication, our folder structure is so for Next.js, the folder structure is like defined. They have like a well-defined folder structure. It's not like it's compulsory, but like they have a structure that you have to follow to develop your API. That's why you know. So if you want to create a new API, it's sort of like trying to create the structure myself. So the really well structure, like I just come up with the project structure and also start writing to adding the endpoints and routes. Stuff like
Okay, awesome. That's well noted. Why should you be hired as a backend engineer with us?
So I believe that I have a background in backend development and I'm pretty confident that if I join the company, I would I would use my skills to to to. So I'm looking for an organization. I'm willing to join an organization that are looking to change people's life, and I'm pretty confident that my skills as a backend developer would would help in changing people's life.
Okay. Um, so how much would you like that we pay you for this role?
Uh, so for now, it's not really about the fee for now. I'm really actually trying to gain experience because I'm just like this is other jobs I've been working as an intern. So I really love to like gain experience from an organization. Maybe at least an entry level. So at the time I might just like take what I'm being offered.
Okay, so you're fine with whatever we offer you.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
Whatever.
And we're offering the minimum wage, 18,000 per month. If that works for you.
You say what?
You've been hearing all the questions I've been asking since. So why is this particular one? You say what? I said we're offering 18K, the minimum wage.
So I feel it's okay even below the minimum wage in Nigeria. So like
I didn't get that.
hopefully I said 18K is even below the minimum wage in Nigeria right now.
Oh yeah, yeah,
18K is
sorry.
below the minimum.
I think it's 30, 33. Sorry, Gary. 33K or 34K. Yes. So is that fine by you?
So I feel when I said I'm not going to like doing for the experience, what I'm trying to say is like at least the salary should need to like cover my data expenses and this like present economy says data is even the monthly data is more than 32 if I'm to like as a back end developer in the company. So I think
Okay.
it's more IRC.
Okay. That's fine. Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah. Okay. So the question that okay. So okay, is there like any other benefit that I will probably get? Like
Hmm.
employment benefits are probably better company coupled with the fact that I'm going to be paid maybe maybe you guys can probably like pay for my data subscription. So is there not like other benefits I would, I would get?
Okay.
What is
Yeah, we have a couple of benefits. So we provide HMO, uh, we provide a data allowance as well monthly. We also, of course, um, pay every regulatory remittance that we have to make as well. And of course, you have your paid leave days, 20 leave days annually. So these are some of the benefits. So considering these benefits, does it mean the minimum wage that we want to pay? Does this mean it works?
yeah, yeah, I think it works. It works.
It works.
I'm going to
Awesome. Thank you so much. So any other question?
I don't have any questions. Thank you very much. I
Awesome.
really
Great. Thank you so much. We will get back to you.
all right.
Okay. So that was a nice conversation with you, Basit, if it's okay to call you that. So like I mentioned, I would like to take feedback from the house. So probably two people, and then I'll share one or two things that I observed, and then we'll go to the next person. So first person feedback, raise your hand if you like to speak. I prefer people who can speak as opposed to dropping in chat box. But if you want to drop in chat box, it's fine. But I prefer anybody who wants to unmute and speak. Anybody? People didn't notice anything. Anybody, please feel free to unmute and speak. What did you notice? What did you do well? What could you have done better? Fatima, please go ahead.
All right, hi. So he reminded me of my younger self. So I will have maybe like literally tilt towards anything you say just to get the job. But with time, as you gather experience, you learn from many other interviews, and then you'll be able to bargain better. But I think he did a good job.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Fatima. One more person. One
Sorry,
more
I
person.
think there's a message in the chat box from
Okay.
Estelle. Yeah.
Sorry, I went off my bad network, so I couldn't stop earlier.
Okay,
Let
please
me
go
just
ahead.
run through what I plan to say. So, okay, so first the voice was shaky, so yeah, there was some lack of confidence there, or maybe we were just nervous or anxious. That is one. Then he used a couple of filler words quite a lot, like to be particular. So filler words we were saying. Then the question on why we should hire you. So I feel it was tilting more on things you could just do. Like you didn't make it specific to your company, so it should have been more of what you can do for you. I also feel like you should have also mentioned some soft skills as well. But that would probably what differentiates him from the rest. Then about how much you were willing to collect. So if you're not willing to give a fixed price, you just give a range. Because you have made your research ahead of time. Always have a range in mind, and you can just mention that if you are asked. Yes, but saying any amount is fine is a no-no. Yeah, I like that you also asked about the work culture and benefits that the company offers to their employees.
Okay. Awesome, great. Thank you so much for that. You can take one
I think that
more.
is all for me.
Okay, awesome, great. Thank you so much. Can I take one more? One more feedback. Okay. If there is none, well, Danish is asking me if there is a JD. No, there's no JD. So I'm just asking general questions because there's no JD. So you're safe because I know you are one of the interviewees. You're safe. Very important points mentioned by Fatima and um, Acel, if I pronounce that well. Very, very important points. So first, I'll start from what you did well. I think, or what I noticed that was a positive for you. I think you have an idea of what a backend engineer does. So you have a good idea of the technical side of things, right? So when I ask questions around, oh, as a backend engineer, what do you do? When I ask a question around what framework do you prefer, you're able to differentiate between Next and Express.js and why you prefer Next to Express.js. Excuse me, which makes sense. So I think on the technical side of things, at least from a theoretical aspect, because another thing I think I should mention is for most of our engineering roles, you either do a technical assessment, a take home technical assessment, and after it, or you do a live coding where you actually all this big English that engineers like to say and technical terms, they will actually practicalize if they can actually do it on the day-to-day job, right? So we do that, but because it's just theoretical, at least from the theoretical side of things, you're able to respond well on the technical aspects. But like it has been mentioned by the two people who get feedback. First, I think a very big um, challenge to your performance is your surrounding, right? You're not in a calm place, and that number one affects your composure. And when your composure is lost, it affects your confidence. And when your confidence is lost, it affects your output negatively. You won't be able to express yourself well, even if you know answer, even if you know the right answer to certain questions, you won't be able to express it well because you've lost composure. Right, that's one thing I really, really want you to work on. If you actually have an actual interview, find a very, very calm place with little or no form of distractions or human interactions, right? So that's a very big feedback. Another is yes, it was mentioned for the salary question. This is advisable that you don't just accept what or just say oh, you'll be fine whatever um, the company will pay you. It's that's sort of gives an idea that you don't place premium on the value that you're bringing or on the skill set that you have, just like Goodness had mentioned while she was having a session. So you should have thought before coming to the interview of how much works for you in terms of salary. And then, as it was mentioned, it's also advisable to speak in terms of a range, right? Provide a range. Okay, I would like to earn between X amounts and X amounts. And what I typically advise is the lowest amount in the range of figures that you provide. So, for instance, you are saying, I want to earn between 250,000 to 400,000. The lowest amount in that, how do you come about that range? The lowest amount in that range, which is 250,000, should be the least amount that you will want to collect. That below the amount, you are not even, you can take your job, I don't want it. If you are giving me below 250,000. So that's how you pick 250 as the beginning of the range. And then 400K would be, wow, if you are giving 400K, you can, in fact, you can throw a party that same day. And also, 400K is not something that is out of reason, out of what the compensation structure or the obtainable compensation looks like in that industry that you're applying to or for that role that you're applying for. So you cannot be applying for, say, an entry level role for the average organization. Please note my terminologies. So you cannot be because there are some roles that their compensation is just way out of. But let's say the average organization, you cannot be applying for an entry level role and then you're asking for 800K. You say you want between 300K to 800K. 800K looks at least in Nigeria for an average organization for any industry. Tell you the truth, even for oil and gas, you rarely get 800K as an entry level person, right? So that's how you mark. That's how you create that your range, your preferred range for to answer that question. Yeah, so I think those are just a few additional feedback that I can provide to how you responded, right? And then I think I would also double click on the third question that I asked. Why should you be given this role? Your response wasn't convincing enough, right? You didn't. So when you ask the question, why should you be given a role? The smart way to respond to that question is you would have checked, and yes, in this context, you don't have a JD to work with. But if you have a JD to work with, check what the JD is. What are the duties that the person that's going to be filling that role is going to um, carry out? What are the requirements? Oh, this person must have experience in XYZ. This person must be a Java developer using Spring Boot as a framework. This person must have worked in the fintech space, whatever it is that are the requirements. So check those duties, check those requirements, those ones that you meet with. So if the duties, for instance, the duties that you've done before in your past experience or in your present experience that you carry out, and the requirements that you meet out of the list of the requirements that were listed in the JD, in the job advert, use those as your selling point. Oh, I have experience in fintech space. I've been working as a Java developer, right, using the Spring Boot framework. What other requirements? Most times they would ask you, oh, you've worked across various industries, for instance. If that's a requirement, so I've worked across XYZ industry. If one of the job duties that you've been working with say APIs that have to do with payment gateway, and you actually have done things like that, or you currently do it, you mentioned that. So that's how you sell yourself and say, okay, with this experience and meeting the criteria that I've listed, I think I'm actually the best fit for the role. I should be given the role. So that's how you sell yourself in terms of responding to that question. Why should you be given this role? So those are the key feedback from my end. Like I mentioned, I think you have a good idea, especially considering that your last experience was an internship. You have a good idea when it comes to the technical side of things. So thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with you, Basit. The next person that I would like to have a chat with is, let's do a full stack engineer this time around. Is give me a second. Emmanuel. Emmanuel, I believe you're on this call. Emmanuel Idoko.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes, I am
yes,
on the
loud and
call.
clear. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Awesome. Good. Can you hear me as well?
Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome, great. So you've heard my introduction when the session started. So can you please do the same? Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, Emmanuel. I am a software engineer. Um, I am studying computer science in the University of Lagos. The languages I work with the most are JavaScript and Python. I am into cloud and data engineering mostly, but I also write um, code for user interfaces, front-end engineering, or front-end development, and I work with the backend sometimes. Yeah, that's
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. I noticed that on your resume. So I saw that you have experience with Python, or the skills that you listed, Python,
yeah.
Next.js, React.js. So that sort of give me an inkling that you have at least some level of experience in both front end and back end side of things. So that's nice from you. Can you please switch on your video if your camera
Yes,
ready?
I can.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. Awesome. It's nice putting a face to the voice. So the first question that I would like to ask you, Emmanuel, is can you please recite the new national anthem? Or let me say the old new national
The old or the new?
anthem. The new one. The new one that
Okay.
recently
I think
passed. Don't mind me.
Nigeria,
Don't mind me.
all right.
Don't mind me. That was on the light channel. So, the first question I'm going to be asking from you, Emmanuel, is what are the primary responsibilities of a full stack engineer?
Okay. The primary responsibilities I think everyone agrees with would be to build user interfaces and then as well as build APIs, work on the database, build the interface, that's the API that connects the database to the front end, then make the experience seamless for users, whatever the users are. But for me, I think it goes beyond that. I think a full stack developer should as well be conscious of system architecture. You come up with a product. I don't think it should be left to maybe the product manager or project manager to determine the features. You should work hand in hand with the designers, with the product managers, with the customer facing part of the company. Yeah, and then bring all that experience into creating a maybe software document and then the architecture as a whole for the product to work properly and to save time as well in developing whatever product it is you're working on.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for that. Before I continue with questions, I just wanted to confirm, would you be okay with being interviewed for a full stack role, or you prefer probably a specialist role, and which one would that be?
Um, I'm okay with interviewing for a full stack role, but I would be more interested in a full stack role or specialist role that is aligned with artificial intelligence or machine learning, something in that direction.
Okay, awesome. I noticed that in your resume. Can you give me like a brief exposure into your function now as a full stack engineer in AI machine learning? What do you do? What are your days?
Yeah. Um, I think I'll use the example of I participated at the point I had to drop out of it. But I participated in a hackathon recently, and I was to come up. So I'm just going to use this scenario to explain what I did. To come up with a product, a financial intelligence kind of chat GPT sort of, for people to ask their questions on financial intelligence and then we get their responses back. And what I did was I got my data like, that is similar to conventional, having a database in conventional software. Software in AI ML is similar, but they're a little different. So I got my data for training my models. I did not build the model from scratch for this particular project. I used Gemini's APIs. And then I got my data, I cleaned it, I worked on it, I did all that in Python. And then using various libraries, and then I transformed it into the format that I needed to be able to work with the API I was getting from Gemini. So that is in conventional software applications. That would be something like how I have a payment system. I'm using an Flutterwave or Paystack, and I'm using their API, and then I'm trying to connect it together with my own application to make it work seamlessly together with my own application. So that's the sort of thing that happened there. And then what's next is I deploy my endpoint that I would use in my application, where I send prompts and then I get responses, and then I design a user interface that people can or users can use to interact with the application. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So I would like to ask just a question on that. How did you get Gemini API? Or if you're not the one who was in charge of that, it's fine to say. But if you had any involvement in that, how did you get it?
They have a studio. I think it's called Maker Studio. The API is free, but there's also the one I used is free. There's also the paid version
Version.
or the
Yeah.
model. There are different models, and the model I was interacting with is free. So I just went through their documentation. And so full stack developers here, you have to read a lot of documentation because for again, I'll refer it to maybe Paystacks API or Flutterwave API service. You have to understand how their APIs work and all. You know what to send, what you're going to receive, and all that. So yeah, I went through the documentation to figure out the API to use. And, yeah, I did that. I worked on that part.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much. I have probably one or two more questions. How do you, from the backend side of things, how first do you have experience with ensuring the security of an application?
I do not have so much experience because I have not really worked on large scale products that much.
Okay.
But I have a little. I mean, I'm aware of it, but then I've not really worked on large scale applications that require a lot of security functions.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Final question is, were you informed that you're going to be doing this interview?
Yes, I was informed.
Okay.
So I think about an hour
Okay.
yeah.
Were you also informed of the company that the interviewers will be from?
Yes, I was.
Okay. What do you know about the fintech space? What do you know about Flutterwave?
Okay. What do I know about the fintech space? That's let me clarify.
Specifically, because so sorry, because that's a broad question. Can
Yeah.
you talk about the payment space that's Flutterwave operates in? What do you know about the payment space?
I know a few things. Some are not in place anymore. But I know Flutterwave had Bata. I used Bata then. I think I know they've closed that service. I know Flutterwave also has send with something that allows clients in Nigeria to make remissions to other countries. And I know the biggest part of Flutterwave services are not even business to customer. I think that business to other businesses, other businesses use their services. For instance, I use Rise Best application when I want to make payments. I think it's Flutterwave that was implemented there. So many other businesses like that implement Flutterwave's payment service platforms. Yeah. So I think a good majority of Flutterwave's customers are other developers. Yeah. What else?
Okay, awesome, great. Thank you so much. The final question I'll be asking you is, how do you handle disagreements with team members regarding technical decisions?
How do I handle disagreements with team members? regarding technical
Regarding technical decisions. Yes. So you guys are seeing things from different angles. Case in point, you guys are even on the same side of things. How do you handle it? How do you handle it? How do you handle it?
Yeah. I have about three answers to this one because there's not really a particular way to handle it. I mean, some methods work for some people, different people, different approaches or different things that work for different people, depending on the teammate and depending on the um the type of products we're working on. But one thing I like to do to even avoid getting to the stage of having disagreements with teammates is to make sure before working on a product, everything is really clear and well documented. Because if things are done in a hurry, I think, or based on my experience, when things are done too much in a hurry, it could lead to the disagreement, and then it's hard to find a middle ground sometimes because in finding a middle ground may not really be the solution to the problem. For instance, I was working on a product where the idea is, I think it's on my resume, but this one is for a campuses all over Nigeria. There are so many features that are expected or to be created, but then for an MVP, the developers working on the project were trying to streamline it to some major things so we could have something to deploy. But then it was like every meeting we have, there's something new to add. And part of the reason is down to not having something documented properly at the start. So it's like a new thing comes in every 2 weeks, and then it keeps adding and piling up to the issues that we have. And at the point, you just had to, okay, we cannot do this thing. Let's leave it for another version. So you just have to. Sometimes you just have to, just say it as it is. Sometimes what you can do to prevent that issue is do more work early on, do more thinking. Programming to me is more of thinking than writing code. So do more of the thinking first, then you write the code. Or if after doing that you still have an issue, so lay down the pros and the cons and just try to explain to your teammates that this is the advantage of doing this, this is the disadvantage of doing this. If we do this, this is the cost. If we do this, this is what we gain. And then try to just reason together, fix things up.
Okay, awesome. Good. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions?
I think I'm going to shoot my shot. I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a mock interview, but I will be finishing my exams by like first week of August. So and I'm looking for internship opportunities. I think I have about 3 months. I can do about 3 months of internship. So if there's an offer for me, I'm available.
Okay. That's fine. You can reach out to me by LinkedIn. You can
Okay, I'll do that.
so that I can check if at that point. Again, no promises so that your expectations are not high. So how it works basically is
Hi, sorry, let me be cutting here. Emmanuel, the answer to that question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
yeah,
The answer to that question is right now we have no openings for internships.
Yeah,
Like I don't know if you were part of the conversations we had on Friday. So we like what Tim and I explained, there are currently no openings But yeah, you can still reach out to Emmanuel. Maybe he will perform magic for you. Who knows?
I'll
Yeah,
reach out
so
to you too.
yeah, you can. So like you mentioned, there are no plans, we don't take any plans, but you can reach out. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? And I've also learned not to say no on the spot to the talents that I think is good. So if not now, maybe next year, where it could be probably an entry level. So I think the most important thing is to keep the relationship, even if there's no plan at the point. So please feel free to reach out to me. Via LinkedIn. Like I mentioned, no promises, and like I already mentioned, we are currently not hiring terms. Yeah. Um, you have. Okay, you said you don't have. So, guys, we've come to an end of the interview session with Emmanuel. What comments do you have? Two people. Two people comments. What worked and what should have been improved? If you can't omit and speak for you, you can feel free to drop it in the chat box. Anybody? Why are we all quiet? Okay. Well, they are speaking. Okay, Islam, please go ahead. Fatima said you did well. Islam, go ahead.
I think my mic has an issue. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, nice. So I think it did fairly well. Like I don't have any exact issues with how it is interview, to be honest. Yeah, I think it was fair overall.
Okay, awesome. So, my feedback would be in the absence of any other feedback. My feedback would be generally on the technical side of things. Just like the first session that we had, you have an understanding of what the technicalities are, at least at your level. You have what the basic understanding is of the client side of things and the server side of things, which is very important for a full stack engineer to have. And also you have an understanding, a good understanding of the AI and machine learning side of things, right? So when you started talking about integrating the application you were working on with Gemini API, I knew immediately that yes, this person actually understands what he's saying. Of course, talking about Google's um, AI's API. So of course you knew that you understood what he was saying. So that's generally from the technical side of things. I think the general feedback, which I think you can improve on, would be how enthusiastic you are with what you're saying. I feel you are quite laid back. There should be some level of more enthusiasm because that drives engagement in terms of conversations. I think probably you're laid back because you don't want to probably make mistakes and all of that, which is fine. And to be honest, you can be as laid back and calm like this and all of that. It works, but it would be nice, it would be spicier if they had some level of more engagement, some more level of life to what you're saying and all of that. It would have been spicier. But how you handle yourself is also fine. If you can't force, if you can't be that, please don't force it so that you don't make a mess of things. It can be your temperament, right? So just if it's your temperament, and if you feel you can't work on it at all, probably now you can't work on it. Just let it as cool as you are. The most important thing is that you have the composure, which is needed, right? So what I was saying is just an extra spicing in things, right? And to spotlight the individual questions that I asked you, I think one of the things that I appreciated with your responses is you, in one or two cases, gave real life examples, right? So that sort of gives credibility to whatever it is you are saying. So it doesn't look as if you're just speaking from off the top of your head. You're speaking about things that you've actually done, right? So that's another plus. When I asked about the company as well, you gave very, very valid, solid responses, even though you didn't have so much time to make your research about the organization, which is another thing I'm intentionally pointing out because it's very, very important. Even if you're not asked to talk about the company, you can chip it in your responses, right? Or even if you're not asked to, you're just asked, oh, what do you do day to day? Talk about what you do day to day currently, and then you can now chip it into, oh, in Flutter Wave, I think my role will involve doing this and that, and also based on what the JD says, if I work on Flutter Wave, my role will involve this and that. You're not asked to talk about Flutter Wave, but you are showing that you understand what is done, being done at Flutter Wave, especially because you are an engineer. What you do, your job role is core to what the company does, right? So I really love that you have an idea of what Flutterwave does and how that you understand that the bulk of our revenue doesn't come from our C2C customers. It doesn't come from our B2C customers, right? It comes mostly from B2B, our enterprise customers, from our API side of things, right? From companies that use our APIs for their services, our payment gateway for the services. So that really makes sense. Probably final feedback would be, let me see. I think that's basically. I think, yeah. Final feedback would be your background, your where you're having an interview from. Quite nice. It's calm. The lighting is well, and all of that. So I think it was a pretty cool conversation. Except that I noticed that you didn't ask any question, which is fine. If you don't have any question, it's absolutely fine than asking an irrelevant question. But if you have a very relevant question, it would help. But if you don't have, please don't force it. Like I mentioned, the two feedback that I'm giving you, please don't force them. They are just extra spice that you can put. But if they don't, if you can't implement them, it's absolutely fine. I think you had a very good conversation. Yeah, so that's that about that.
Thank you
Finally,
so much.
you're welcome. Finally, within the next 10 minutes, because of time, because I have something to jump on as well. We're having conversation with, give me a second, Daniju Farouk. I hope I pronounced your first name right. Daniju Farouk.
Yes, you do.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Uh, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Good day.
Which part of the world are
Thank
you
you for having
joining
me.
us from?
I'm joining from Lagos State, Nigeria, University of Lagos to be precise.
University of Lagos. Okay. I can see your hostel, your main hostel, right behind you. Obedient. So that's fine. It's actually fine. So, can you do a brief introduction about by the way, what's the name of this all?
This is Maria All.
Eh? Malaria Hall.
Yes, Maria All.
Malaria Hall.
Yes.
Malaria.
No, no, no. Marie.
Malaria. Okay.
Marie. Okay.
Yeah, so when I said malaria, I said yes, yes, yes. Okay, that's fine. So can you go ahead, please?
Okay. My name is Danny Farouk. I'm a software engineer. I've been a software engineer for about 4 years now. I started my career in software engineering in 2019. 2 years later, I got my first role as an engineer back developer at a healthcare company where I was saddled with the responsibility of, you know, building a backend logic for connecting several therapists to patients. Next, I have worked with I work as a backend developer and a full stack JavaScript developer across several organizations, including fintech, gaming, healthcare, and currently and e-commerce also. So I've also worked on several projects, including projects involving AI, fintech, machine learning, and basically full stack web applications.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. What? Okay. Can you tell me what was the last project you worked on, and what was your biggest headache?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Biggest. What was the last project that you worked on successfully that you completed, and what was your biggest headache? What was your biggest challenge working on that project?
Okay. My last project was yeah, an AI project. Actually, it was for an hackathon. Uh, uh, it's a courtesy hackathon. You can make a choice on that. So I had to work with a team. We had to build a solution for solving for climate. Actually, the solution was around climate, where we have an AI model that analyzes, that makes use of, that consumes and that analyze real-time data for real-time climate data to predict natural disaster in a particular environment and triggers a particular notification system, or should I say an alert or a broadcast, where it's kind of where it's able to alert users in the environment to mitigate the effect of natural disaster. Now the headache was working with the team. I was pretty new to AI, consuming AI. So I had to work with several Python tools like TensorFlow and Scikit-learn. But working with that, I get more understanding on in AI, building AI models with Python, with those tools.
Awesome. That's great. Uh, I don't know if I missed out on how you overcame the challenge that you talked about. But I mean, did you mention how you overcame it?
Oh, okay. I guess I did. Okay, I can recap that. So I said
Okay, good.
the project was building a solution around was basically building a solution around climate change or natural disaster to be precise. So we have a system where we use AI model to analyze real time data, climate data to predict natural disaster, and there is an alert system which sends a real time notification via email and push notifications to users. So it's also consumed it as a social media, a kind of a bit of a social media interface where, I mean, it's a Web3 app, so users get rewards for reporting maybe events, maybe unusual events. Then once they report, I mean, the unusual events, it triggers the AI to actually uh, analyze the data from that and from where the report is coming from, to check if it is if the report is actually legit or not. If it is, we send a broadcast to users using a built-in a microservice for responsible for notification system built on Node.js basically.
Okay, nice, thanks. Two more questions. How how do you ensure a smooth relationship, or how do you work with the front end engineers to ensure that there is a good integration with their deliverables and your deliverables?
Okay, working with other talents across different departments, or should I say it's different skill sets. I actually analyze it depends
Sorry,
on
did
who
you
I'm.
get my question?
Okay, yes, I do.
Can you repeat my question, please?
Okay, so you said, how do I handle working with front end developers?
Awesome.
Am I correct? Okay, so now
Yes,
working
please.
with
Please
front
go
end
ahead
developers.
and answer that.
Working with front-end
Yes, good.
developers, based on my experience, in some cases you might be lucky to have a front-end developer that has in-depth knowledge of how things work on the back end.
Yes.
But in the case you don't have that, I tend to, after sending the documentation, I make myself available, or I must, if the developer, if he's having issue or if he has questions, I actually schedule a one-on-one meeting. where we get to look into the documentation and resolve any issue or any form of blocker it could be having at the moment.
Awesome. Okay, that's fine. Um, Final question would be: have you ever encountered a bug in the back end side of things?
Okay,
How did
yes,
you
I
deal
have.
with it?
Okay, I actually it was communicating with the bug I had was it was communicating with a third party API, which the task was assigned to me at okay my first role was okay one of my previous roles as a backend developer was a junior backend developer, so I had to integrate an authentication strategy I've never worked with before, but it turns out the tool I was meant to use, which was actually Passport, it's not being maintained anymore. It's not being maintained. So I was able to figure it out on my own. But I reached out to I was able to figure it out on my own though, but I reached out to the senior developer who assigned the site and I explained what I encountered, and I found a way around it. But I thought I had a reason to believe it would be best if we if there was to like change the strategy or change the implementation of although it works, but at the end of the day there was a dependency which I didn't which the on npm when I checked on npm the downloads was not as much as the recommended downloads, which means the tool was not so much in use, which means it can change or it may not be maintained and it can break the application eventually. So I made this known to the senior developer, but he accessed it and it was updated on the Trello board, which was actually placed. So it was assigned to someone else, so maybe like to something we could actually look into later. So basically, I made it known to him, and he took note of that, and he made it a task that he's going to go back to later. So, thank you.
Okay, so have you ever handled the case of debugging yourself as opposed to
Yes,
escalating to somebody to resolve? Have you done one yourself?
yes, sir, I have. I don't know. Maybe based on my previous explanation, I was able to figure it out myself. I was able to figure out the issue on my own, and I felt the work around it, which I was able
But you said
with
it
the work.
was assigned to a senior developer.
Okay, the feature was assigned to me by a senior developer. Okay, so I was assigned to implement an authentication strategy, which was actually I was supposed to
So
integrate
sorry,
an
I'm
authentication.
talking about the debugging itself, not the feature generally. Because what you mentioned before was you identified that there was a bug, blah blah blah, and then it was assigned to a senior developer to debug it to fix the bug. So I was now asking, is there any bug that you have fixed yourself?
Yes, I have. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. So in my previous role at GameFi.io, where GameFi INC actually, so the I was starting with the responsibility of develop of part of implementing like our my major role was being part of the maintenance and development of a backend logic for connect for an app that connects gamers across the globe. So there was a blocker on, although it was not really a feature that would stop business logic, but I was able to debug it on my own. It was more like a customer, or should I say, the administrator bug, whereby it's not affecting the consumer at the moment. So it was assigned to me because the others there was high pressure. I mean that was like my first month in the role, so it was assigned to me and I was able to figure it out.
Okay, that's good. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. Can I proceed? Okay, so I would like to know what are the metrics for evaluating talents in your company. I mean, what do you look for? Is it the ability to deliver on time, or is it the willingness to learn, or to you know
Okay, so it depends on the role. Generally, what we look out for is the talents that at least meet to a good degree the requirements of the JD, the talents that have carried out responsibilities that were assigned in the JD. So that's what we look for in general. Definitely, we don't expect to get candidates or talents that meet with 100% of our requirements because most times that doesn't exist. So again, we can just at least have some level, at least from 70% level of experience or relevance regards in comparison to the JD, to the job adverts, to the duties and the requirements that we stated in the job adverts and the job description that we put out. So that's essentially what we look out for in any talent that we're engaging. From your application process then to the interview process. And then of course, secondly, culture. We look out for candidates who fit well into our culture. Right. So that's how we essentially have the technical interviews and then the culture interview as part of the recruitment process.
Thank you.
So any other question?
No.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking with you, Taniju. Audience, the house, what are your feedback? Ebenezer, go ahead, please.
Hello, Emmanuel. Hello, everyone. All right. So my own observation would be that I think he digressed a lot. Right. I can't like remember a question that he actually hit the nail on the head with. For instance, when you asked about how he overcomes a certain challenge, I don't know. I heard him go over talking about a whole project again. And secondly, he he was always looking away. I mean, he was always looking away. He didn't like maintain, at least a decent level of eye contact during the entire process, which I feel like it's important when it comes to body language. So that's just my own observation.
Awesome, fantastic observations. Fantastic. Any other person? Any other person?
Okay, hello everyone. So as regards our score, so one thing is that I feel like we could have set up the webcam better because it was first higher than I would expect. That would be one. Then two, I noticed like it was talking a bit too fast, so that was one thing. We could have slowed down a bit. Then I feel like you can do a lot of work on the storytelling. Yeah, so the way you was like you talked about his experiences, like 1 minute I was so 1 minute I was following what he was saying, next minute I was just lost. It's like you could really work on how to talk about his experiences, make it such that I can flow like all the way and pick up something from what you're discussing. And like maybe next time you can just take a pause before asking a question. So when you're asking, you can pause and then collect your thoughts, compose what you want to say, and not say it out in one go. Instead of talking and now going off course, like repeatedly over and over again. I think that was feeling to work on majorly. And like Ebenezer said, like he didn't really maintain a lot of eye contact with you during the interview. Yes.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much for that feedback. First, let me respond to Ebenezer's question. These businesses can also be called merchants. 100%. That's what we call them. They're called our merchants. So businesses that make use of our APIs, our payment gateway, we call them merchants. Right. So that's right. For Daniel's comments, his camera, and it wasn't coming through on the interview. Not surprising since he seated outside. Yes. So I think I want to indulge him for that because he's outside, so distracted here and there. So I would want to indulge him for that. And I also want to assume that when you actually have an actual interview, you won't be doing it in such an environment. That's number two, the biggest feedback. But generally, I think you at least also just like the other two people that have spoken before you, you have a good idea of what you do, what you are doing as an engineer. But I think the biggest uh, work that I think you should do or area of improvement is responding to the question that was asked. I don't know if it's the reason you are not responding is maybe you don't understand the question or you have so much to say that you just beat around the bush and you don't say the right thing, or you are distracted. I don't know what the problem is, but whatever the problem is, I think you should fix it and ensure that you are answering the question that was asked. Right? No matter the volume of information that you provide, if you don't answer the question that was asked, you've not answered the question. Right? So that's a very, very key feedback. And I think the first person who talked, Ebenezer, mentioned it as well. You're not really hitting the nail on its head with regards to the question. That's why, if you notice, I had to ask a question again. So I think I remember the question about how you work, how you integrate with front end guys. When I asked the question, the first line or the first statement you made was working with stakeholders from other departments can be challenging. That's not how you said it, but this is me paraphrasing it. That is not. So that's why I have to ask you that you didn't get the question. I was talking about front end engineers. Because if you start off like that, you most likely just keep going like that and don't go back to the real guys that you are meant to talk about, which is the front end engineers. And I was intentional about that, about you talking about front end engineers because if you don't talk generically, you won't be able to answer that question well. Because as an engineer, you interface with a lot of people. You interface with DevOps as a backend, sorry, you interface with DevOps, you interface with the QA, you interface with the product managers, you interface with various engineers and even non-engineers, right? That's the case maybe. So you want to be specific when you are asked the question. And secondly, when I asked the question about how do you handle debugging, you gave, or how do you, let me see the question. Ask, yeah, describe a challenging bug you've encountered. Right, I asked that question. I wasn't expecting you to tell me, oh yes, I experienced this bug, blah 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 blah. Yes, I loved how you gave a practical example, but I wasn't expecting you to now say, oh, you now escalated the case to a senior developer who now debugged it. I was asking for an experience where you actually were the one who debugged. It could have even been someone else who escalated to you, but you eventually have fixed the bug. I would have taken that absolutely fine, but not that oh you identified it and then somebody else has fixed it. No. So I was asking the question to check if you have experience with fixing bugs. So you should have given an example where that shows that you actually fixed a bug, right? So that's that about that question. I think generally, let me see. Yes, when I was asking about what projects you worked on, I think I asked that question first. And what was your contribution? You spoke generically. I think the major feedback for you is answering the right questions and then being specific with your responses. Right? You were just talking about the project, you were talking about the problem that you guys encountered working on the project, blah blah blah. But we didn't talk about what you did, what specific issue you encountered and how you fixed it. So when you are asked about scenario-based question, the best way to answer those questions, this is for everybody. All what I've been saying, this is for everybody. The best way to answer those questions is to use the STAR approach, STAR method or STAR approach, whatever it is that you call it, whatever you remember. And STAR is an acronym standing for S is situation, that's the problem that we're faced with. The task, what you had to do. Action, what you actually did. The task could involve what everybody had to do to fix that problem. Action is what you actually did. And our results, what was the result? Many people stop when they're asked about scenario. Have you ever worked with a difficult boss? Some people stop at the situation level. Oh yes, I worked when I was in XYZ company. I worked with this boss. It was very difficult. but thank God I overcame. I feel like giving testimonies. That you are just talking at the situation. You do go to the, and in fact, you that situation you didn't elaborate on the situation. What exactly was the problem? Is it that the boss shouts at you, doesn't correct you well, and all of that? So you a call is coming. That's distracting. So sorry about that. So you talk about the situation, then the task. What did you do in fixing that issue, or what did you have to do generally in fixing that issue? You talk about it. That's task. Then actions. What did you actually do, especially from your own end? Because sometimes when there's a situation, it's not just one person that fixes it. It could be a group of engineers, a group of people that fix it. But when you're talking about action, better you talk about what you actually did, what action you carried out as a person, and then don't stop at that. Talk about the results, what eventually happened at the end of the day. So it doesn't necessarily just bringing stories or what the intervention that you brought in into play didn't yield the result, right? So that's that about that. So, but generally, I think you have an idea of what you're talking about. And for the three people that have engaged this afternoon, three of you have a good idea of what you're talking about. And I'm really impressed. And this is a general feedback. I'm really impressed with the level of intentionality that you guys, and this is a general feedback for you, everybody on the call, and I think I want to guess that most of the people on the call are Gen Zs, Gen Zs, right? Um, I think Gen Z are my favorite generation alive, for a couple of things. And I'll just talk about one, which maybe two, and there's a closing remark for me that have to do with context of what we're talking about. Number one, two things. Number one, intentionality, and two, community. Intentionality in the sense that you guys are intentional about what you want to do with your lives, and you are going for it wholeheartedly. And it showed from the responses that the three people that are engaged. It shows you guys, you're not talking and speaking as people that didn't understand the basic things or basic duties of what you guys were into, which shows some level of intentionality about what you're into. So it shows that, oh, I want to do this. You guys are going for it. Even though in Unilag today, this is no shade. It's general across high institutions in Nigeria. In Unilag today, your computer science courses might not actually be directly relevant to the world of work today. I was in my alma mater last week for a session, and I was engaging computer science students there, asking them what programming languages they were learning in school, and they talked about. I think they mentioned two programming languages. They mentioned Python and I think Java. I was asking them, did you guys didn't teach you about Node.js? You have practical sessions on Node.js. They said no. What is Node.js? React, no. Angular, no. Which other ones do we have? They were just C sharp. They were just saying no, 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 no. Right, which shows some level of disconnect between the academic world and the world of work. Right, but I see you guys as a generation being intentional about what you want. So that's number one, which is absolutely fantastic. And number two, community. This wasn't present at least. Thank God for Google for putting this up. It's massive shout out to them, right? But also a big ups to you guys also for making the best of this. They could have put these opportunities and you guys are nonchalant about it, but you value the importance of communities, right? Because you know that it helps you grow and then it also have easier access to opportunities, right? So I think you guys are the generation. You guys, not everybody definitely might be Gen Z. Some of you might be millennials, but I'm speaking especially to Gen Zs that are amongst you guys and probably the younger millennials, like myself, that are on call. Big ups to you for those two things, which I also saw the interviewees display this afternoon. So that's my closing remark. It's been a beautiful, beautiful time having this session with you guys. Over to you, the coordinator.
Oh, thank you very much for that, Emmanuel. Yeah, I appreciate the community gave, the community gave all of us, yeah, as a community and being intentional on what we're doing. Yeah, So I really appreciate you being on the call. I appreciate the interviews. I also picked up a couple of things myself. Yeah. So I think that wraps it up for today. But let me talk, if you give if it, let me give you a brief recap of what we had earlier today for those who joined in late. So first we had Ore talk about ethics when doing interviews. So she mentioned joining the interview early, and if you can't join early enough, just give an heads up. Make some shit about the company that you're interviewing with. Practice some possible questions. Be polite, be confident, but not cocky. Um, be confident but not cocky. Stick to the facts. Yeah, don't overblow your accomplishments. Don't give more modern answers. And if you don't know it, answer with okay. I'll give a positive answer. Like example, now if you ask about okay, have you done something before? No, but you can something you can pick up for something you can learn if given the time to do that. Then after that, we had goodness talk about negotiating your salary. So the first thing she said was if you're already at that stage, then they already like you. That's just fact. Number two, don't bring up the discussion of salary. Like, it should be them that bring that up, not you. And don't appear desperate. Yeah. So even if you get one big money that you're not expecting, just maintain composure. True. Then don't focus on the money all the time. So at times you might be looking for something different. So for example, now if you work at a startup that's paying you crazy amount of money, let's say 400K a month, and then you get an offer from Flutterwave for 250K a month. Like there's a value that you get from working at Flutterwave that you don't get from working at a startup. So in that case, it is value to like to take a pay cut. So you just know what like you're looking for in your next role. Have that why. Like why do you want this job? Do you want it for the money? Do you want it for the experience? Do you want it for the class that the company will give you? Do you want it to make connections? So you always know your why and you know what to prioritize in that for that job or for that interview. Then don't always push back. If the pay is good, then it's fine. Like you don't really have to push back on whatever figure or whatever pay you are given. Okay. Then that's all we said the pay level. So that was a quick wrap up of what our class discussed earlier before Emmanuel gave us the mock interviews. So once again, thank you, Emmanuel, for engaging us today and for the mock interviews. Then just share the link down below so feel free to connect with him. Yeah, so feel free to connect with him and you can always ask him any questions you have later on. Then we'll also share the resources to you on the group chats like, after the call today. So I think that wraps up today's session. I believe so. Emmanuel, do you have anything to say? I think you were trying to talk before. I can't put it down. So I think that's everything for today. So thank you and be here for tomorrow's session as well. Yeah, have a great day. Why are you doing a group chat? Let me see. Let me quickly get the link. So I'll just share it in the chat for you to join. Okay, yeah. So that is someone just shared it. Dev slash join. So thank you all again for joining the call. See you guys tomorrow.
After I think you can carry on.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll done now.
actually, but also let's say we ever should not forget to like come for the grand finale event on Saturday at Stedford Hall.
Oh, I think by 10 a.m., right?
Yes.
Yeah, 10 a.m. Thank you.
After this time again. All right. Thank you everybody for attending this event. Really appreciate. Yeah, I think that's it.